Hello and welcome to day 139. We have 1 Kings chapters 4 to 5, 2 Chronicles chapters 2, Psalm 101, and 2 Thessalonians 3 to get through today. So when we start with 1 Kings, we are once again looking at a list. Lists are so popular in the Hebrew Bible as a way of grounding the text, connecting it to people's lives, showing the connections among the people. Here we've got a list of Solomon's officials. So we know the people who are important in Solomon's reign, the people who are connected to him and who are making the administration of the nation of Israel happen. Now, one thing it mentions here is that there is plenty of food at one point. And I want us to not just gloss over this because we have lots of food and we're used to always having food in our lives. Back in this time period, having plenty of food was not taken for granted. If the harvest didn't go well, you weren't going to have food. And so a lot of people manage their agricultural side of their life in such a way that they always had 2 or 3 years worth of grain or dried foods or something set aside so that if in any given year the crops failed, there was still food for the family, for the household to have access to. And so this is something that we don't think about much these days, but we do still face some significant times of famine and starvation, depending mostly on wars and economic decisions that nations make. It's not so much individual drought conditions in one place because due to global trade, we can usually fill in with food from someplace else in the globe. But these days, it's generally human choices that make for a lack of food, which is a lot harder to plan around. But I just want us to be aware that we often take the plenty of food that we have in our lives today as something that we don't even think about at all. And so when we see this in here, that there was plenty of food in the time of Solomon's reign, they're talking about the wisdom of Solomon, but they're also talking about the blessings of God and that this was a marvelous thing that they were experiencing. So all of this goes to show that Solomon had a huge kingdom and had a huge administration that he was in charge of. Now, one of the things Solomon did was he got vassal states, so states that weren't specifically part of his kingdom, but who sent tribute in to send the supplies to help build the temple. So Solomon was leveraging his trade routes, his power, his influence to be able to get supplies for the nation of Israel in order to build God's temple. As we move into Chronicles, we're still paralleling the story of Kings. The King's version emphasizes a lot of the political alliances and God's fulfillment of the gift of wisdom. Chronicles is focusing more on the zeal to build the temple and establish religious rituals. There is less emphasis on the political side of things, the administration of general nationhood in Chronicles. Chronicles is really focused on what does it mean to be building up a religious cult, not in the U.S. sense of a negative thing of a cult, but the religious practices, the religious rituals that would organize the community's worship of God, especially as they build a new temple. In Psalm 101, this sounds like the speaker is a ruler. This is perhaps a royal psalm talking about someone who has authority, has responsibility for ruling over the people. And this psalm really focuses on how the ruler will rule, how the servants and the courtiers will behave. And so this one is less about worshiping God per se, but more about how a specific ruler, human ruler, is going to administer their area of rule. When we get to 2 Thessalonians, this is the conclusion of the letters to the church in Thessalonica. And we have this interesting section about laziness, that there are freeloaders and that they are just, sitting around and getting the benefit of the work of the other people in the church, in the community of believers. Paul points out that he himself and the other people that go with Paul work hard for themselves. They do not, they accept offerings from others, but they work to support themselves, that primarily they take care of themselves. And they use this as an example that we are not to be just sitting around and getting the benefits of other people's work, but we are all to be contributing to the life of the community. And so he really emphasizes don't be taken advantage of by people who are trying to get stuff from the early Christians. Because they knew that Christians were generous, other people would often come and try to take advantage of that generosity and not contribute at all. Um, so don't just sit around and talk. Um, do your own work, lift your own weight, contribute to the needs and the supplies of the whole community. So, Paul, as you look through all of these letters to the Thessalonians, he has a focus on the daily tasks of life, and how we should be fulfilling those with joy and thankfulness. And the whole focus is on what are we expecting to come next in God's plan? What is God going to be doing next? And how are we working with others to fulfill Jesus' hopes and plans for people as we restore the brokenness of the world around us? Next time we will start into Paul's letter to the Romans. So have a great day, and we'll see you next time.